Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And we told y'all we're going to keep sharing life experiences. We have another amazing guest, Matt Melvin. And as you know, we're not going to introduce him. He's going to introduce himself. And then after he introduces himself, City Sid is going to kick off that first question. Matt, welcome to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Matt Melvin. I wrote a book called Bullied Behind Bars. A gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. I wrote it when I was I did my second stint in prison. The first time I worked at a car dealership. They didn't pay me my commissions, and I impulsively tried to sell one of their cars, got caught. Instead of going through the traditional court, instead of going through the mental health court, I went through the traditional court. And I came out with a record because Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria. As a result, I came out with a record. Then in 2009, I couldn't pass a background check, so I used other people's information to get work. The government pursued me for 6 years, spent about $500,000, finally got a grand jury indictment against me, and then I did 18 months in federal prison, went to 10 different institutions.
Well, that was a wonderful prelude to what we will be discussing this evening. As we do with all of our guests, we like to start at the beginning of your journey. Excuse me. So tell us a little bit about growing up, your home structure, if you experienced any trauma in those formative years, and if we can draw any parallels from what you've been through as a child, up until your trials and tribulations with the law in jail. So tell us a little bit about growing up. What was that like, and if you experienced any trauma?
I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts. Was bullied by the boy next door, Brian, on the bus because I was overweight, bullied in school because I had autism and I'm on the Asperger's spectrum. I just come to the world a little bit differently than other people do. But I think it was because I was overweight. Really, that was the crux of why I was picked on, and I was different. My parents made the unfortunate decision in 1988 to move up into Vermont because my father got a job, and that was the worst mistake they could have made because Vermont is very isolating. It's very hard to meet people, and I was bullied here. So, even though I was in a different environment, I was still bullied. It didn't change.
Sorry to hear that, Matt. Bullying is one of my topics because I teach the youth about bullying, the fight against bullying. If we can chat a little bit, when did the bullying start when you were younger, and what are some of the things you experienced from bullying?
I would say around 5 to 6 years old is when it began. Being isolated, having other people take advantage of me, stealing things from me, and really not having a lot of friends to talk to, and really feeling like I was an outcast and not worthy, not lovable. And that transformed into my early years where I felt I wasn't loved. Nobody cared about me, and I was a mistake. I was a misfit, which, all led into the stealing of the vehicle and not loving myself. If I loved myself and I had a strong group of friends, I don't think this would have ever happened.
Now with, currently or most recently, autism and things of that nature, are more talked about, more accepted. We know more about it. Was it a situation where, your parents kind of drank the water and they didn't kind of take seriously what, your diagnosis? I'm not sure if you had it then, but did they kind of, procure a secure environment around that diagnosis? Or was it something like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. We're going to push into you that everything's normal, everything's okay. Like, how was their kind of treatment of you surrounding that diagnosis?
I wasn't diagnosed until I was 35 and had a psychological exam as part of the pre-sentence investigation, which is part of sentencing in in the federal system. Every inmate has to have a PSI where they look into your background, how much, what your record looks like, your home environment, everything about you. And then they produce this report to both sides, the defense and the prosecution. The PSI is done by the probation office, so it's very slanted towards the government's favor. And it also talks about the likelihood of the individual, the recidivism rate. Obviously, the more felonies and misdemeanors the individual has, the higher recidivism rate there will be. And that's just logical, right? However, when you get a record and you have convictions on your record, it's very hard to get them removed. It's virtually impossible.
And I wanted to ask, do you think as a kid, being undiagnosed with autism, that caused some of the conflicts in the relationships that you had with kids or trying to have relationships, a part of the isolation?
I think it was part of it. I don't think it was the whole picture. But not being able to connect the dots was really the challenge. I also think it's important that even if you have a diagnosis, don't let that diagnosis rule you. You are an independent person. You are lovable. God put you on this earth for a reason. And every decision you make has both positive and negative consequence. Every choice you make, you can make the choice, but you can't choose the consequence. So try to make decisions that are in your best interest. Impulsivity is the shadow of autism. The impulsivity never goes away. And that's the biggest issue with the criminal justice system, is they don't understand mental health. They have a firm grasp on the drug addiction because they believe that all you have to do is remove the drug and then the person will be able to function in society. When in fact, the drug addict will always say, I just need one more hit, just need one more drink. And that's how a lot of people go about their life. I just need this one more time and then I'll get over it. Well, one more time turns into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it's a vicious cycle. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. So get out of that cycle. Get rid of people that are toxic. Get rid of people that are negative. Surround yourself with positive people. You don't need to surround yourself with everybody that agrees with you about everything, but you need to surround yourself with people that will hold you accountable, that won't sugarcoat things, and that will be honest with you. Because sugarcoating, lying, being dishonest, being a people pleaser serves nobody.
Absolutely. Now, you did say that you didn't get your diagnosis until kind of part of your profile as an inmate. Was there kind of anything before that kind of assured the fact that you had something going on, or that you were a little different? Were you previously evaluated before your stint in jail? Was anybody, or did that, finding that out, did that kind of ease anything for you in jail or your sentence or anything like that?
It didn't ease the sentence. The sentence. It didn't alleviate anything. The federal system does not have a mental health court. They only have a drug court. So it didn't change the outcome, in my opinion. However, it did put painted the picture better than it was previously. And now we could understand why I didn't fit in, why I felt most of my life like an outcast.
And I want to ask real quick before we go to the next. Through school, did you go through the bullying all the way up until you graduated? And yes. Can you, for the audience, for folks that are being bullied, we like to bring transparency to this. Can you tell the audience some of the ways you were bullied and how it affected you?
I was bullied. I was made fun of. I was beaten up. Rocks were thrown at me on the playground. I was isolated. I was locked in a locker. I was told not to say anything. I was threatened. I was threatened that if I told anybody, my family would be harmed. So what I want to encourage each of your viewers to do is to not allow this to happen, to speak out. And that's what I've done in my book. My book came out because I wanted to expose the corrupt judicial system, and that corruption just doesn't occur in large cities. It's occurring right in the small state of Vermont. There were a lot of people who told me, you should change the names. You shouldn't put, high-level judges, lawyers, police officers in your book. But I refuse to back down. I backed down from bullies most of my life. Now I'm standing up for myself, holding people accountable, gaining back what people have taken away from me.
Absolutely. Now, you did say kind of your first infraction was the stealing of the car. What was the situation surrounding that? How did you find the gusto? How did you, just decide that's what you wanted to do?
The impulsivity. The impulsivity is the shadow of autism, but it didn't just start there, ladies. It started with driving 130 miles on the highway, driving off without paying for gas, walking out of restaurants without paying. All of these small crimes accelerated because I didn't get caught. And I've always been fearless. And until I started seeing how my actions affected others, I was being blinded, thinking, I'm not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with driving off without paying for gas. Well, there is something wrong. That's somebody else's money. So until I was able to be empathetic and put myself in another person's shoes and letting go of that anger, rage, hatred I had, being able to forgive people.
I was going to ask, since you talk about anger, rage, all of those things, did that build up from the bullying, and were you like exploding inside? Did that cause the petty, or I don't even know how to say, the petty thefts that you were doing? Was that a part of it?
It's hard for me to say. It stems from people taking advantage of me, and then I was going to retaliate and take advantage of other people. And it's not right. I was doing the same thing that other people were doing to me.
Absolutely. I had a question and it just totally lost me. Regarding your impulsivity, how were you able, well, with the impulsivity and the way that you were being treated, how were you able to, I guess, kind of channel that into the crime that you were doing versus like being violent or hurting these people or, getting your lick back a different way? What I guess made you choose the route that you were going down versus, maybe wanting to harm these people that were harming you?
I've never been a violent person. That's not in me to be violent. I've always been a very non-violent person. I believe in using words and that violence is never the answer.
It was the, what you were doing, was that just, rebellion, or did you think they would help you fit in? Have you ever kind of went down the road of where your mind frame was at that point?
It was that I was holding on to this anger, rage, and it exploded because I wasn't doing the work I should have been doing. I went to about 30 therapists. I was just showing up, checking the boxes, trying to get out of there as quickly as possible.
And do you think, even with that being said, do you think that you were just kind of good at manipulating the situation, or just kind of being secretive about things? Or do you think that these mental health professionals just kind of weren't doing their jobs?
Oh, I don't think the mental health providers were doing their job at all. They were just trying to collect the insurance payout.
Understood, because I feel like that was something they should have picked up on, for sure.
I was going to ask, through all of this, how did your parents help or not help? Was there support just to help you navigate through this?
There was some support. It wasn't the ideal support, but my parents didn't know what to do. I was out of control. They didn't know how to fix the problem. So, in my opinion, they were doing the best they could, given everything that they had, but they didn't know what to do.
Did you ever tell them about the bullying and some of the stuff that you were going through?
No, I didn't. I wanted to protect them. I didn't want them to see the pain that I was going through.
And how did that? Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Look, we both ready. Thank you,
Was there
Matt.
anyone that you did seek solace in, or had, or that was in support of you? Any way that you had any positive outlets?
I didn't have any positive outlets. All of my outlets were negative. Nobody was helping me. I didn't have friends. I didn't have a strong support network. And that's really key, is to have a good network. Have people in your life that are positive. Have people in your life that will challenge you. Have mentors, not tormentors. Have people that will build you up, that will call you out, hold you accountable, and that you can talk to about anything.
And how did bottling this up from 5 all the way to high school, how did it affect your grades? Did you get good grades? Like, how did you get through this?
Oh, I was wearing a lot of masks, and a lot of people are wearing masks every single day. I encourage you to take off the mask and live in authenticity and be real.
Now, what was the outcome of stealing the vehicle? What was the court process like for you? Was this time jail involved? How did that all kind of pan out?
I did 18 months in 2004. Instead of going through the mental health court, they put me through the traditional court. I came out with a record. If I was allowed to go through the mental health court, I may not have a record today. We may not be sitting here today.
Absolutely.
And can you go ahead, Sid, sorry. I was going to ask him before he got locked up. He said they were in the beginning they were messing with his money. Can you tell us a little bit about how they were messing with your money and how it led up to the car sale or trying to sell the car?
Oh, I said that they weren't paying my commissions.
Yeah. Messing with your money.
Other salespeople were jumping in front of me. The car industry is a very deceivious industry. It's very dishonest. It's very self-centered, passive-aggressive mentality. It's not a fair fight. What I've learned over the years is that it's a trigger for me. For me, everybody has those triggers. For me, working at a car dealership is not good for me. If you or anybody has gone through an addiction, whether it's drinking or drugs, you need to remove yourself from that. I need to remove myself from car dealerships. It's a huge trigger for me. Things don't go well for me when I work there.
Absolutely. What would you say were those triggers? What was it, about working there that set you out outside of, not being paid properly?
Having other people jump in front of me, take my sales, being dishonest, being manipulative. It's just not a very supportive environment.
So did you feel like you were being bullied
absolutely.
in the car industry?
Yes.
And so I'm just trying to kind of see if that related to the impulsive behavior.
It's all a pattern. It all connects.
Okay.
All of our lives connect in some way. These things don't just happen. Like I mentioned before, the stealing of the car just didn't serendipitously happen. There were other things that happened leading up to that. The smaller crimes, driving off without paying for gas, walking out of restaurants without paying.
And what was, even though you didn't have, your diagnosis at the time, I don't believe so. It's everything's still there. Who you are as a person is still there. So what was that experience like for you? Being in jail. What kind of culture shock was that for you? Did you get along well in there? What was 18 months for you like in there?
It was horrible. I didn't fit in at all. I was made fun of. Inmates would tell the guards that I tried to proposition them. I was put in solitary confinement. That's where I really started doing my work. Reading my Bible, praying, getting exercise, creating these good habits that have led me to the man I am today. Without having that time to myself to reflect about where I had ended up and why I ended up here, I wouldn't be the man I am today. Being able to let go of that anger, rage, hate, resentment, all of those negative, toxic emotions, feelings, and loving myself. I had to accept that I was a sinner and that God was there for me, and I needed to stop being dishonest, stealing. It wasn't until August 2015 where I was almost killed by an out-of-control driver on 495 when I was headed east. I was going 72 miles an hour, which is pretty slow for how I usually like to drive. And if I wasn't in God's will, I probably wouldn't be here today. And it was that wake-up call that startled me, shocked me. That was when God drew a line in the sand and said, you're either going to be for me or you're going to be against me. And it was from that day on that I gave up being deceptive, dishonest, lying, manipulating, stealing. Started doing God's will.
And I want to ask, because you use these two of the words, one of the words, boldly gay. So when did you figure out your sexual preference through all of this? When did you realize that this is how I want to be? I don't want no attachments with a woman.
I've always been gay. I've never been attracted to women. I'll give you an example. When I was in college, I went out on a friendship dinner with a girl, and she expected me to pay, and I was really set off by that. And I'm like, we're not even dating, and you expect me to pay? And it was just a friendship, and I've never been attracted to women. I know some guys that are married to women, but they're gay. They're living a lie. They're putting on this mask and pretending to be somebody that they aren't to appease the world. I don't know. And it's not serving anybody.
That was kind of my next question as well. With I recall you saying that the inmates used to lie and say that you tried to proposition them. Was that strictly based off of your sexual preference, or how was that something that they even really knew? Was there did you ever have actually like I'm coming out moment, or I'm out moment, or as you said, you've always kind of never been attracted to women, so was it just kind of just something on your aura? Like, how did that come into play?
I've never been attracted to women. It's just not something that has ever had any interest for me. So the thought of it just doesn't appeal to me. And to push something on me that doesn't feel right is going back to the bullying.
Absolutely. And in jail, how did the inmates know about your sexual preference, or was that why they were saying that you were improperly in positioning them?
Yes, absolutely. I don't hide it. I believe in being honest, and it's pretty easy to spot. It is what it is.
And I wanted to ask, because you said you went through some rough patches in prison. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you went through in prison?
The second time I was raped, inmates would lie to the guards, tell them I tried to proposition them. They put me in solitary confinement. I was assaulted by a sex offender. My journal entries were stolen. During the time that I was spent in solitary confinement at Essex, the superintendent and 4 other guards refused to give me my medication, brought me out, put me in the attorney-client room, surrounded me with their body cams, and asked me what my end game to writing all these grievances was. They seemed to be under the illusion that I would be getting a get out of jail free card, when in fact, there's only 3 ways you can get out of jail: in a body bag, a pardon by the president, or your sentence comes to an end. You can write as many grievances as you want, and you're not getting out of jail.
And you said that your 18-month stint was when you kind of started doing the work, started changing things within yourself. What was it like when you were released? Did you kind of continue down your healing path or your path to, just being a different person, or did you kind of revert back into old ways once you were out?
The first or the second time?
After the first release.
Well, the first time I got out, I was still a lukewarm Christian. I was still angry. I wasn't living in true authenticity, and I had a background. I couldn't pass a background check. I couldn't find work. So in 2009, I used other people's information to pass a background check. The government pursued me for 6 years and finally got a grand jury indictment against me. 2016, I did another 18 months. So it wasn't until the second time I got out of prison when I started healing, really.
So the information that you were using from other people, was it people that you knew? How did you get their information?
I was working. Good question. Most people don't ask me that. I was working at a reset at a store and asked other people to provide their social security card and their driver's license.
Okay, so you've had access to them. At what point, I guess, how long had it been from, being turned down for jobs and failing background checks and things like that? I guess, kind of what was the final straw that, made it okay for you in your mind to, take these information and do background checks under their information?
4 years of not being able to find work, failing the background check, and feeling like I'm at the end of my rope.
And how, doing the background checks with them, getting jobs, how did you get IDs from them? Because you would have to have a form ID, correct?
Yeah, so they brought their driver's license and social security cards to the merchandising job at a store, and I made photocopies of it.
And then what did you work remote from home?
Yes.
So they didn't physically see you?
Who didn't physically see me? The employer?
Your employee.
So you're asking the people that I used information, they didn't see me?
No. So I'm asking with your employee working remote, you had to get on, I guess, meetings or call meetings and stuff. Did someone just catch on and be like, oh, this is not the guy in the ID?
No, nobody caught
on. Okay. So how did the government figure out it was you?
That's another good question. Not many people ask me that either. It was somebody at my bank who called the IRS because checks were coming in other people's names. And I was cashing other checks in other people's names.
So is that kind of what you believe that sparked the 6-year investigation, or were they kind of already in play by that point?
It sparked the investigation, yes. If it wasn't for the call from the security at my bank, the government may not have ever known about it.
Now, were you made aware that they knew about it at this point, or did you find out once they had the whole kind of case together?
In 2014, John Schroeder from IRS and May Chow from Secret Service came to my house. They had a lot of paperwork. They had a lot of questions. I refused to answer all their questions, and then they started following me around.
And did you feel like you were being investigated?
Oh, I knew something was going on. Yes.
When
they showed up at their house, they had about a stack of papers about that big.
Wow.
I don't know how big the stack is, but, they didn't show up empty-handed. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't, we think, it was we know type of mentality. We just want you to confess. But even if you did something, don't ever confess to cops. Don't ever do it. It's not in your best interest. If you did something wrong, you need to consult an attorney.
So did you stop once you figured they were on your trail? Did you stop, or did you?
Oh, I never talked to them. No, I never talked to them.
No, I'm saying, did you continue to go to work and receive checks?
I don't know. This had all come in about 2009. I wasn't still engaging in illegal behavior then. No.
Okay.
And once the indictment kind of came down on you, what was that whole process like? Were you in jail while that was taking place? Were you kind of at home while that was taking place? And when did you know in that procedure that you were probably going in jail for another run?
Grand jury indictment came down. 8 police officers, including the former police chief, Aaron Noble, John Schroeder from IRS, May Chow from Secret Service, several members of South Burlington and Shelburne Police showed up at my parents' house, arrested me at about 6:30 in the morning, and my mother collapsed. Thankfully, she didn't have to go to the hospital, but I actually had an attorney representing me at that time. And this was complete government overreach. There was no reason for that needing to do this. It was an intimidation tactic.
So I want to ask, going into, you said your second, you went in 2015. When did you go in? 2016. So was that before or after the election?
That was before the election.
Okay. So did you get to vote the first term or the second term?
I voted both terms.
Okay. So what made you vote? Because you say I'm gay, I'm a Christian, and I voted for Trump. What made you vote for Trump?
Oh, I loved him. I've always loved him. I worked on the campaign in 2016, knocking doors in New Hampshire. I loved it.
And even though, I guess policies are kind of, an alternative of things we would think that you support. I guess what about his platform, intrigued you? What did you love about his policies?
I love everything about him. I think he's a great guy. I would vote for him for a third term. I wish I could. He's a no-nonsense person, just like I am. Calls balls and strikes, just like I do.
And can I ask one question? It doesn't offend you when he makes like comments about gays or racist comments?
I've never heard him say once. And any one of those.
So what exactly was the what's the word I'm looking for? What was the conflict for you, in regards to your sexuality, your religion, things you had been going through legally? I guess where did all of that Venn diagram meet to where you felt like changes should be made, or there was reflection to be done?
Oh, I've always known it. I mean, going to prison twice, seeing the amount of corruption, the evilness that goes on behind bars, the violence, the unreported crimes is just sickening. And I wanted to be a voice and speak out against it.
Are you open? Well, you said everything we could talk about. Um, how did being sexually assaulted in prison emotionally make you feel? And how are they able in prison to be able to corner men to sexually assault them? Because I don't think enough people talk about that. You'll just hear the assault piece, but not how they get away with the assaulting.
Well, I was sexually assaulted by a group of Aryan Brotherhood members as an initiation into a gang. And any initiation to a gang involves a violent act. And there's a lot of gang activity that goes on behind bars, and they protect one another.
So you were sexually assaulted by a few men?
Yes.
Did you want to be a part of the gang initiation, or did they force you?
No, I was the violent act for men to get into the Aryan Brotherhood.
Oh, okay. I misheard that. I apologize. Oh, wow. How did that mentally affect you?
It's hard for me to trust people. It's hard for me to feel like I'm worthy, I'm lovable, that I'm enough, that anybody cares about me, because the whole crime didn't even, there were no consequences for any of these people who did it. I wrote tons of grievances. I made the staff very aware of what was going on, and all they did was shove it under the carpet, pretend it didn't happen. And when I got out, I contacted the Bureau of Prisons, and they claimed that they never received any documentation. Well, I have a box of paperwork in my room that says otherwise. It was well documented.
So do you believe that they received it and never did anything about it, or that the CEOs weren't actually passing, or whoever you were filling out within the facility wasn't actually passing along your complaints and grievances?
All of the above. They weren't doing their job.
So a collective effort,
Yes.
for them to kind of smother, the information needed. Okay. Now, was there anyone, in this procedure, or anyone that, did go, above and beyond, or did actually, help you with these grievances or with anything while you were incarcerated?
No, nobody did anything.
Now, were you like, after this happened, after the rape situation happened, were you sent to the infirmary or anything like that? Were you treated for injuries or anything,
No,
that? I'm sorry, go ahead.
They didn't do anything.
Nothing.
Right.
My gosh, I'm so sorry about that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I want to ask, after they sexually assaulted you, did the gang disrespect you? Did they leave you alone? Like,
they mostly left me alone after that, because they knew that I could expose them, and I did. But they mostly left me alone. I was put in solitary confinement, and that was hard. I mean, I was safe in solitary confinement. Nobody was going to rape me again, but I was locked in a cell for 23 hours a day. I was being punished for doing nothing wrong.
So what, I guess, was the significant moment where, you thought about this idea for your book, putting the names out there, putting everybody that kind of wronged you in this situation under fire. What gave you the courage to do so, and when did you make that decision?
I made the decision when I was journaling my story. I wanted to share it, and I can't. If a story doesn't have real people's names, then people will question whether it's true or not. And I wanted to lay it all out there. And love me or hate me or however you feel, this is the situation.
Absolutely. And with that being said, what was that brainstorming like for you? How were you able to put that together? Kind of give us a little bit about the build up to actually writing.
I was writing my story when I was in the 10 different institutions for 18 months because they kept passing me around. They didn't know what to do with me. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and it was cathartic for me to get my emotions, my feelings, what's going on, daily activity into these, my journal. But my book is by no means everything that went on. I just consolidated it, obviously, because, I had thousands and thousands of pages, and I couldn't put everything that happened, but it's the highlights.
Now, did you receive any retaliation or threats for writing your book and exposing names?
No, I mean, I had, that's a good question. My uncle, who I told about my book, and I told him not to tell my parents that I was writing my book, exposed it, and he wrote a really bad review on Amazon. But it's not true. He just was retaliating against me. So I've had people that have sent me nasty messages on Instagram, and it is what it is. I don't believe any, of it. But people are entitled to make up their opinion. A lot of people seem to think that you can't be gay and Christian, and that's not true.
And what kind of issues have you faced since, name dropping? Have you been given any trouble? Is it kind of blatant trouble or stuff that's happening under the radar? What has it been since you dropped that book?
I haven't received any threats. I've received nasty comments on social media, but nobody's threatened me.
And I want to ask really quick, you mentioned that the gang that sexually abused you didn't want you, they left you alone because they didn't want you to expose them, but you exposed them. Did you expose them while you were still incarcerated, or did you expose them afterwards? And if you exposed them,
I did both? Yes. I exposed them in grievance form, and then I exposed them in my book.
Okay. So did they retaliate after you exposed them, or?
I mean, how would they? My parents seem to think that, members of the gang were going to show up at my house and threaten me, and that hasn't happened. The only thing that's happened is I had an individual that I was in prison with show up at our house a couple of years ago and thinking he was going to live here, and we just sent him packing. It was very strange. Wow. Yes. Very strange. But unfortunately, the media put my address on the internet. So unfortunately, anybody has access to that today.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. I mean, the media, when I tried to get off supervision early, they put an article in the paper about that as well.
Now, kind of the basis of, all of your troubles was kind of being the outsider, not being accepted in certain circles. Since everything has taken place, have you been able to find, supportive friends or spouses, significant others, or build your own kind of family unit? Has anything changed regarding, feeling lonely or not having a support system?
Yes, a lot's changed. I started doing men's work in February 22, where I really was able to see how I got to where I'm at, doing the carpet work, really working on myself, having other men there to play different roles in my life, having other men share their experiences and really going deep. And that's what I'm looking for today is friendships with men and women that are willing to go deep. But I can't expect other people to open up if I'm not willing to open up myself.
And I want to ask really quick, how did your parents react finding about like your entire life, the book? Did they read the
Oh, they
book?
weren't happy about it. They weren't happy about it at all.
Were they not happy as to don't publish the book, or were they happy?
That's why I told my uncle not to tell them that I had published the book,
Okay.
but he told them anyways. And my brother did the same thing. I told my younger brother not to say anything to my parents, and he did the same thing, you know. So, you know, people have been very dishonest, betrayed my trust, close people in my life. So it's very hard for me today to trust people because everybody has a motive. Everybody has an agenda.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a question really quick? And I know we're almost at time. Were you ever sexually assaulted as a child or just only in your adulthood? No.
Only in my
adulthood. Okay. All right. So have your parents been, I know they were against it, but have they been supportive now?
Yes, my parents are much more supportive today than they were.
Okay.
It's really been a healing. I know they weren't happy about my publishing the book, but it was my story. I wanted to get it out there. And, you know, at one point I thought I was going to be homeless if I'm going to be truly transparent with you. It was that bad.
What type of things do you believe you were able to kind of tackle and take care of and learn more about yourself when you got the diagnosis? I guess, what road did that put you down, you know, regarding knowing yourself and your triggers and just, you know, putting a name on something, you know, that was there. How did that initial step kind of help you, you know, kind of know that that's a thing in your life, but that you can get through it?
I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and, you know, everything that's been put in front of me, I've been able to conquer and handle. And that's what I want to do. I want to help other men and women who may be going through challenges themselves. You know, don't isolate. Talk about your problems. Let other people in. Don't expect other people to be vulnerable if you yourself aren't willing to be vulnerable first. Find your tribe. Surround yourself with positive people. Eliminate negative people out of your life. Make sure your side of the street is clean.
Okay. We are almost at time, and I want to ask for a final, what advice would you give someone from your personal life experiences that helped you along your healing journey through bullying, being sexually assaulted as a adult, some of the changes coping with autism, learning that lately? What advice would you give the audience to help them along their journey from your healing journey?
Talk about your problems. Don't isolate. Find your tribe. Find what you enjoy. Get rid of video games, sports, stuff that doesn't mean anything. You know, if you love cooking, you love gardening. I'm a swimmer. I love going out in the ocean very deep and swimming, feeling that freedom. You know, even the small things like the sunshine. When I was in prison, I didn't get to see that. You know, the small things we take for advantage, we don't count when we're out on the outside world. Being thankful. appreciating other people, saying thank you, saying please, asking for help.
And we do like to give you the opportunity, as we do all of our guests, to participate in Shameless Plug. So if your story has resonated with any of our viewers this evening, please let them know where they can contact you. If you have any goods or services you want to advertise. I know you have a book. Let the viewers know where they can purchase. Anything that you would like to platform and advocate for, you now have the floor.
My book is available on Amazon, Bullied Behind Bars, a gay Christian Trump supporter goes to prison. You can follow me on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621, X, Bars Bullied. You can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you buy my book, I'm happy to autograph it for you for free.
Matt, we want to thank you for sharing your testimony, your courage, your wisdom from all that you have been through. And you're still sitting, standing, and being a voice to help so many. One of my key highlights is there are a lot of men that have been sexually assaulted and they never talk about it. And a lot of them allow it to destroy them. I hope your voice and your testimony will help a lot of males that have been sexually assaulted, because it's not talked about enough. And I'm so thankful that your power of your voice is able to send a message to that. And I cheer you on for your journey, and watching you go through this healing journey. Continue to spread the message, continue to spread the word.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. Ain't that right, Sid?
That's right.
Yeah. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube. Once we reach our numbers, part of the proceeds are going to go help support our the Good Fight nonprofit organization, giving back to communities, the fight through domestic violence, life traumas, and mental health. And also follow us on TikTok and Instagram. I don't know how long we're going to have TikTok, but follow us on those two platforms until Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. You will see the green and purple U. There are some unfilters, but we want to make sure you get the right one. And we will see you soon. Tune in every Monday at 8 p.m. ET. Have a blessed day.